All right, this is 6th grade, 6.1, Chapter 6, First 1, Chapter 6. So if you guys would turn your books to page 291. And again, you need to have your books. Some of you aren't opening your books while you're watching the podcast, so make sure you do that. All right, let's look at some vocabulary. First off, we have a fraction. A fraction shows a part. It's actually a part to whole ratio. You have a numerator over a denominator. A mixed number is a number that has a whole number on it, like for example, 3 and 3/4. It has a whole number and a fraction, so it's always bigger than 1. Mixed number. And then round is something we use when we estimate. Okay, you round to the most of the time we round to the nearest whole number. All right, so let's take a look at what we're going to do, estimating fractions. Example number 1 says to round the fraction. So on A, 1/8. If you look at it this way, I kind of look at it like a candy bar. A fraction, the top number of the fraction is how much of the candy bar you're going to get, and the bottom is how many pieces I'm going to cut it up into. So I'm going to take a candy bar and cut it up into 8 pieces and give you one of those 8 pieces. So when your number, the numerator is small compared to the denominator, that would round to 0. 5/9, when you think, you got to think, and always start with the denominator. The denominator is 9. Half of 9 is 4.5, and 5 is really close to that. So it's close to half. And then when the numerator is really close to the denominator, if you think about my candy bar again, if I cut it up into 7 pieces and give you 6 of them, I'm almost giving you the whole candy bar. So that would round to 1. Okay, so the mixed number, this one, we know that 4 and 1/3 is between 4 and 5. If it's half or higher, we go up to 5. If it's lower than half, we'll go down to 4. So we look at 1/3, and half of 3 is 1.5. 1 is less than half, so it would round down to 4. Sorry, let me get those marks off. So 5 and 3/4 is between 5 and 6. 3/4, now half of 4 is 2, and 3 is bigger than half. So bigger than half means we go up, so we would round to 6. So in our guided practice 1/4, we look at this and we have 3 options. We're either going to round it to 0, 1/2, or 1. Now this one, I think, we could almost go both ways with this one. It's pretty, if you think about my candy bar only giving you 1 out of 4 pieces, you can kind of think that's close to 0. Or I would even take a half. We're rounding. I would probably, since it is something, I probably wouldn't round it down to 0. I would probably round that one to a half. Let's see what the book did. They did. Okay. 5/6. Well, 5 out of 6 pieces is almost the whole thing, so that rounds to 1. 2 and 9/16. So 2 and 9/16 is between 2 and 3. So now I have to decide, do I round to 2 or do I round up to 3? So you look at your denominator, which is 16. Half of 16 is 8. 9 is bigger than that, so this fraction is bigger than a half. So that tells us to round up to 3. 5 and 3/7 is between 5 and 6. So now we got to decide, am I going to round down or up? Half of 7 is 3.5, and 3 is less than that, so you round down to 5. Estimate the gecko at the top of the page. Measure from its head to the tip of its tail, round to the nearest inch. So if you look up at the top of the page, there is a ruler up there. And that gecko starts at the beginning of that ruler. It's in inches, and it's between 1 inch and 2 inch. So basically you got to decide, is it closer to 1 or is it closer to 2? Well, its tail doesn't go anywhere near half. It's less than half. So that gecko is about 1 inch long. Here we go. Estimate the difference. So estimating, just like we've done before with whole numbers, whenever you see the word estimate, so I get my pen to work here, you always round first. Don't round at the end, round first. So take this number, 6 1/4. Is it closer to 6 or closer to 7? That's less than a half, so we're going to round it to 6. 5/6 is almost a whole thing, so that's another 1 with this one would make it 2. So 6 minus 2 is 4. So they're rounding them, and then they get 4. Okay, so example number 4, in real life, you need 1/5 of a yard of ribbon for one costume and 7/8 yard for another costume. You need to know how much ribbon you need. Should you estimate the amount of ribbon to be high or to be low? Well, the problem with estimating it low is you might not have enough. So, and I don't know about you guys, but when I'm doing stuff or making things, I usually make mistakes. So I want my estimate to be a little bit high just in case I messed up. So estimate how much we need. So it's 1/5 plus 7/8. This right here I'm going to round to 1, which is already high because we rounded up. 1/5, you know, it's not, I can't round that to 0. I'm going to have to round that to a half, even though that's, you know, quite a bit lower than a half. So I'm going to estimate I need 1.5 yards of ribbon. Let's see how they do it. They round it to a half and to 1, just like I did. Look at that. Excellent. Okay, estimate the sum or difference. So I'm going to round them first. So I end up with, this is 1, and that's almost 1. So I get 2. 9/16, half of 16 is 8. 9 is really close to 8, so I'm going to go a half. 1/6, you know, that's not, no, I don't think that's close enough to a half. So I'm going to just round that one to 0 and get a half. 3 1/5, is it closer to 3 or 4? Well, 1/5 is closer to almost nothing, so that's just 3. 7/10 is almost, you know, almost the whole thing. So I'm going to say 6. Good, I agree. 1 5/6. 5/6 is almost a whole in itself, so that makes 2. 2 1/2, you know what, I'm not going to round that. I think I'll just leave it. I don't know what they do, but that's all right. They rounded it up, but I would take 4 1/2 also. Remember, estimating, sometimes it's hard to grade because we can have different answers. 5/9 is a half. We've already had that one. 2/15 is almost, 2 out of 15 pieces is almost nothing, so we're just going to say a half. 11/12 is 1 all by itself, minus almost 0, 1 out of 7, so I say 1. Excellent. What do we got? 2 3/4. 3/4 is almost the whole thing, so I'm going to call that 3. Well, half of 5 is 2 1/2. That's almost a half right there, this fraction. So I'm going to call that 2 1/2. So 3 minus 2 1/2 is a half. They must have rounded it to 2. I'd take that. 5 2/3. Why don't we go ahead and round that to 6? 1 11/18. I think I'm going to round that to a half. I don't think they're going to do the same thing. I'm going to get 4 1/2. They got 4. They probably rounded this to 6 and this to 2. But remember, well, I'll take, as long as you're within a half, I'll take it. Okay, number 14. You need 3/4 cup of flour for one recipe, 2 1/3 cups for another. You want to know how much flour you need. Should your estimate be high or low? Again, should be high so you don't run out. Then estimate what you need. 3/4 is almost a cup. 2 1/3, I'm going to go ahead and round that to 2 1/2. Since I need a high estimate, I'm going to round everything up. So I'm going to say about 3 1/2 cups. Let's see how they rounded it. They put 4. They put 4. I guess they probably, oh, I see what they rounded theirs to. That right there, the 2 1/3, they rounded it to 3, so they for sure had enough. But I think even rounding it to a half will for sure have enough. So just remember when you estimate to round first, and you're estimating to 3 possibilities, 0, 1/2 or 1, and a half is like 1/2. So give it a shot, and we'll see you next time.